Okay, today is Monday, September 15th, 2025, and starting from today until next Monday, September 22nd, there is going to be around 50,000 Jews, mostly from Israel and the USA, traveling to a small city in Ukraine called Uman. And the reason why they are traveling there is because we want to spend the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, which starts on Monday night next week, with our Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, keep watching. And partly the reason why I'm making this video is because there is obviously today a lot of focus on Jews, especially Israeli Jews, in the news all over the world. And there's a lot of people who like to make things up about Jews when they have no idea about the faintest idea about anything of Judaism. And obviously there's going to be videos on the news of many Jews heading towards Ukraine and traveling through different countries to get there, and they're going to start making things up. So if you happen to find this video, I would like to give you just the right answer of what we are doing and why we are going to go there next week. I'm heading out on Sunday next week and going to Poland, and I will be crossing into Ukraine from Poland on a train. Now, what is Uman? What is Rosh Hashanah? Who is Rabbi Nachman? What's going on over here? So we are mostly dealing with Jews who are going to be going there are mostly religious Jews, known as also known as Orthodox Jews, and part of Orthodox Judaism is something called also Hasidic Judaism, Hasidic Jews, right? Now, Hasidic Jewry, let's say Hasidism, whatever you want to call it, started in Ukraine, actually, in the late 1700s by a person named the Baal Shem Tov. Okay, the Baal Shem Tov started this new path of serving God within the confines of the Torah and Judaism and Jewish law, called Hasidus, and from there was many different groups that spread out. And now all these different Hasidic groups today mostly originated from Ukraine, Poland, or Russia, which was all combined back then in different ways. But today they're obviously three different places. But most of the groups today originated from different cities in those areas. Now, I am part of a group called Breslov. Breslov was started by a guy named Rabbi Nachman, who is now buried in the city of Uman, and we're going to get to there. And Rabbi Nachman was actually a great-grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, of the founder of the Hasidic movement. And Rabbi Nachman is a kind of a controversial figure in the Hasidic world. We're not going to get into that, that's a different video. And his path was a little bit more open, a little bit more musical, a little bit more spiritual, a little bit more going out to the fields and praying by yourself in seclusion. It's a very, very attractive spiritual path for a lot of young people today, where more people, let's say other people more want like a more regimented, closed-off Hasidic group. Breslov was a little bit more open to the world and a little bit more open to technology, using the internet, different like that. Different things that you've heard about, let's say Hasidic Judaism or whatever it is. But there's no official dress code. It's an interesting thing. And Rabbi Nachman started this group in the year 1801 when he moved to the city of Breslov in Ukraine. In Ukrainian, I think it was called Breslov, but we call it Breslov. I think that was the Hebrew way of pronouncing the word. Now, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, when he was alive, he was very adamant that all of his followers be with him for the Jewish New Year on Rosh Hashanah. Right? It was a Hasidic custom by all Hasidic masters and all these different tzaddikim and all these different heads of a head of a Hasidic group is basically called a rebbe or a tzaddik or something like that. So we're just going to use these terms. I don't know how, who's watching or whatever, but basically the head of each group would have their group, and on Rosh Hashanah, all the different followers would come from all over Ukraine or Poland or where back then wherever they were, with wagons and whatever, and they would all gather by their specific Hasidic master for the Jewish New Year. Now, Rabbi Nachman took it one step further. Rabbi Nachman, obviously this was a very good thing to do, but if somebody couldn't make it to their Hasidic master, it wasn't the end of the world. But in Breslov, Rabbi Nachman took it one step further, and he basically said, no, you need to be with me on Rosh Hashanah. That is when I do my most spiritual work on your souls, right? That's also another thing that we have to talk about eventually in a different video of what does it mean that a tzaddik can do a spiritual fixing on your soul. That's a different thing. But Rabbi Nachman basically said that I need to be, you need to be with me on Rosh Hashanah, because that's when I could help you the most, right? So every year when Rabbi Nachman was alive, all the different Breslov Hasidim would gather. Wasn't so many back then, just a few hundred, and they would gather in the city of Breslov, and that's how it went for about 10 years. Now, at the end of Rabbi Nachman's life, in the year 1810, the city of Breslov burnt down in a big fire. It was a very, very small village, and Rabbi Nachman's house also burnt down, and Rabbi Nachman moved to a little village called Uman, which is about an hour away from Breslov. And Rabbi Nachman also specifically wanted to be buried in Uman because there was a great massacre of Jews there about 100 years before Rabbi Nachman lived. And Rabbi Nachman wanted to be there to fix their souls. That's a whole other discussion again as well. But Rabbi Nachman wanted to be buried in that specific cemetery, and that is where Rabbi Nachman died eventually in September, October 1810. Now we understood so now how did it become to be that even after Rabbi Nachman died, this gathering continued? So the people who were around Rabbi Nachman, these guys who carried on the tradition of Breslov Hasidic, or the customs of Breslov Hasidic, understood from Rabbi Nachman that he wanted this gathering to continue after he passed away as well. So after he passed away as well, from the year 1810 basically until the Second World War, until the Holocaust, until then, there was a gathering in Uman every single year. Depending on how many people it was, whatever, there was different times when people couldn't go. World War I, there was typhus outbreaks, there was different things you have to learn in all these books. Basically, this kibbutz this holy gathering happened for all those years. And then in World War II, it got very, very intense for the Jews, obviously, also over there. And many Jews left Ukraine and went to Israel or different places. And basically from then, there was only probably from the 1950s until, I don't know, the 1990s when Ukraine reopened up or whatever it was, and the Iron Curtain fell and all this different historical stuff. It was probably just a few Jews living in Uman. And I don't think that there was any Rosh Hashanah gathering. But once the Iron Curtain fell in 1989, 1990, the Breslov Hasidim were like, hey, we can go back to Ukraine. And they got special permission from the government and everything like that. And this gathering slowly started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every year. That until this year, in 2025, it's already becoming about 50 to 60,000 people are coming. Right? Not everybody is a specific follower of Rabbi Nachman. Right? Again, Rabbi Nachman very wanted much all of his followers to be with him on Rosh Hashanah. So that's why that's why me today and all the other people who follow Rabbi Nachman go to him on Rosh Hashanah simply to fulfill Rabbi Nachman's will that we should be with him on Rosh Hashanah in Uman, in Ukraine, because that is where he's buried. Now, there's many people also who are not Rabbi Nachman's followers who are, let's say, are coming to check out. Maybe they should start learning some of Rabbi Nachman's lessons and and his teachings and everything like that. So they want to come check it out. Other people are coming to check it out just to see what it is. Obviously, it's a very, very religious festival. It's mostly praying and studying Torah and dancing and things like that. But that is basically why everybody's heading to Ukraine this week, because the reason why that is because up until the year, let's say 2020, right? So let's say from when I started going to Uman, which is in the year 2007, my first year, was about 25,000 people there. Now it's about 50,000 people there, right? So it used to be that, let's say if you live in Israel like me, you could just go to the airport, you could be on a plane to Kiev in 3 hours, and then from Kiev it's about a 3-hour taxi ride, and you could be in Uman for Rosh Hashanah in 6 hours. Now, since the war started in Ukraine, unfortunately, you cannot fly into Ukraine anymore. Therefore, you need to fly to a different neighboring country like Poland, Hungary, Romania, Moldova, and cross the borders from there. And each country has its specific reasons why certain people go to this country, that country. I happen to like going to Poland because I like taking the train over the border. I don't have to wait in a car at the border. I don't have to wait online at the border. The train is probably the best way to do it. So I will be heading there on Sunday next week and taking a train into Ukraine. And if I didn't say at the beginning of the video, I would just like to thank the Ukrainian government and President Zelensky and everybody in charge who still allows us to come every single year during the war in Ukraine. Obviously, being from Israel, we are used to the last 2 years, 3 years of rockets and missiles, so we understand what it's like to enter into a war zone. But hopefully everything is going to be good, and hopefully Ukraine will win. Now, a lot of people. So that is basically the answer to the question: is that everybody's heading to Uman this week to be with Rabbi Nachman for Rosh Hashanah. That's it. There's no conspiracy. There's no anything. It's just they want to be there for Rosh Hashanah. We want to pray. We want to eat. We want to dance. We want to be spiritual. We want to be holy. And then after that, everybody goes back home. Now, obviously, there's a very small Jewish community during the year that lives in Ukraine during the year, that lives in Uman, that keeps the upkeep of Rabbi Nachman's gravesite. Obviously, it's a very big building. There's a whole complex, and then there's hotels there. And there's people who travel there during the year as well, not just on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so that is why we are going. Now, just another thing is that a lot of people like to They like to compare this Uman Rosh Hashanah thing to Burning Man. So I've never been to Burning Man. They call it the Jewish Burning Man. I've never been to Burning Man, but from what I've seen of Burning Man, it looks more like a gigantic party, and it's more for the physical senses than it is for the spiritual senses. And Uman is the total opposite. Uman is a 2-3 day experience of just unbridled spirituality of people who have been serving God for many, many years, and meeting people who have not been serving God at all. And there's also a lot of Israelis who are not religious at all coming to search for religion and coming to search for God, and they come to Uman and they have amazing spiritual experiences. Even people who are religious for 30-40 years come to Uman and they have insane spiritual experiences and new ways of serving Hashem and serving God and all things like that. So it's a very, very spiritual thing, and it's not like Burning Man, and hopefully everyone's going to get there and everyone's going to be safe. And yeah, I hope that made some sense.